China has taken a swipe at Australia as the government celebrates signing a major new strategic agreement with Vanuatu. There has also been some pushback to the Nakamal Agreement in Vanuatu, with one opposition MP saying it undermines his country's sovereignty. Meanwhile, Australia has signalled it is more relaxed about a separate agreement Vanuatu is expected to sign with China. So Foreign Affairs reporter Stephen Jedgetts joins us now to explain all of this. Stephen, the government is pretty open. This agreement is part of its diplomatic battle with China in the Pacific. So what has Beijing had to say about this?
Yeah, look, a slightly snippy response, I think it's fair to say, last night from Beijing. Look, this is something that China knows as well as us. This is all about this subterranean battle for influence across the Pacific between Australia and China. No, that's not the only thing driving this agreement. There are an awful lot of very good reasons for Australia to strike these agreements and to step up development assistance to the Pacific beyond China. But there's no doubt that anxiety about China getting a military foothold in the region is one of the biggest drivers behind Australia's step up over the last decade or so in the Pacific, and particularly over the last few years with this government. The government's also talking a bit more openly about it now. We hear a lot about a permanent contest. We hear more direct references to China. So the government is now levelling a bit more, if you like, with people about exactly what we're doing in the Pacific and, to a degree, why we're doing it as well. Now, yesterday, China's Foreign Ministry received a question on the Nakamal Agreement. Basically, although they didn't name Australia, the Chinese spokesperson made it clear that he wasn't too deeply impressed with the agreement. He said that he wanted the relevant country, a clear reference to Australia, to work in the interests of the Pacific without using agreements like this as, quote, a geopolitical tool. So China obviously registering its dissatisfaction with this. That may, although I don't want to read too much into it, reflect a level of frustration in Beijing that Australia has actually scored a few wins on this front. Either way, I don't expect the contest to ease anytime soon. I imagine China will continue to press its case across the Pacific, and Australia will have to continue to press its as well.
Well, indeed, China is pressing ahead with its own agreement with Vanuatu. What do we know about that? What is Australia's opinion of it?
Look, you get the sense that Australia is now more relaxed about this agreement than it was, say, 4 or 6 weeks ago. It's called the Nakamal Agreement, and for a long time it was shrouded, at least from the outside, in quite a bit of mystery. It was called a comprehensive strategic agreement. It was called, in some cases, a mirror to the Nakamal Agreement, which suggested that, perhaps there would be elements in this agreement that would have really troubling security implications for Australia. But recently, over the last few weeks, you get the clear sense Australia is less worried about this agreement. Jotham Napat has said repeatedly, including in public, that it's not a security agreement, that it's purely a development agreement. People I've spoken to who are loosely familiar with the content say they believe it's largely restating existing agreements and things that China has already promised to do. And you get a sense that the government's relaxing from the language that it's using. So Pat Conroy, the Minister for the Pacific, this morning said that Australia had, quote, a degree of comfort in the Nakamal Agreement, in part because the Nakamal Agreement has such clear provisions preventing militarisation of critical infrastructure or military bases in Vanuatu. So his point is, now we've signed Nakamal, that gives Australia a level of protection, which means that Australia's a bit more relaxed about what China is trying to do with Nakamal. Still no word, Gemma, on when that agreement might be signed. There are a few contradictory suggestions doing the rounds. We might see it before too long, we might see it pushed back slightly, but either way, I think it's very likely this agreement will be signed.
And Stephen, back in Vanuatu, what's been the response there to all this jockeying?
Yeah, look, a level of bemusement, a level of frustration in some instances, but also a sense of happiness, I think, amongst some in Vanuatu that these agreements are going to deliver real benefits to Vanuatu. And certainly with the Nakamal Agreement, there seems to be a feeling that, yes, this will deliver some tangible gains. But it's not all smooth sailing for Australia. Andrew Napawat, brother of another Andrew Napawat, who's actually a minister in Vanuatu, said this morning that he wasn't at all happy with this agreement. He's been a consistent critic of Nakamal. He says he is still worried that it will undermine his country's sovereignty, saying that Vanuatu shouldn't have to consult with any country, including Australia, on what it does in critical infrastructure. So there are some voices of clear opposition in Vanuatu on this, even as the government celebrates its achievement here.